good, everybody? Welcome back to Don 773 TV. You're in the place to be. Tonight we got a good one. We're gonna dive into this Mark Diamond topic and how he was out here targeting foundational Black American elderly and stealing their homes that they've been living in for generations, planning on passing down to family members, and it was stolen right from up under them. So yeah, we gonna dive into it. Y'all come on in, like, share, subscribe, drop a comment where you tapping in from. We'll kill this music. And we gonna get right into it tonight because this is a heavy one. Yeah, so welcome back. Today we talking about Mark Diamond, a name that should be known across Chicago. And honestly, a name that should come with red flags for real. Mark Diamond was a Chicago businessman, a mortgage loan originator who became the center of a major federal fraud case involving reverse mortgages and so-called home repair program that targeted elderly foundational Black Americans, homeowners right here on the west and south side of Chicago. So he was out here getting down on the elders. Federal prosecutors said he convinced FBA seniors to sign paperwork they believed was for home repairs, when in reality, these documents were tied to reverse mortgages. In many cases, the repairs were never completed and families was left in debt. They was left in foreclosure, and a lot of them just flat out lost their home. When this story started coming out, right, it wasn't just another headline. It hit close to home for many FBA families across Chicago because this is nothing new. So yeah, I want to take y'all back. I'm gonna show y'all the early clips of when we was first introduced to this case. So y'all check it out.
Heron is facing eviction after what she calls a fraudulent reverse mortgage.
CBS 2's Suzanne Lemonnier has this original report.
Barbara Heron starts packing up 55 years worth of memories. Heron says her mother, Effie Heron, had dementia. She signed what she thought was paperwork for home improvements to be done by this man, Mark Diamond. In 2013, Effie died. Soon after, her daughter says she started getting letters
from Reverse Mortgage Solutions that she owed $180,000.
Heron says her family never saw a dime, and Diamond kept the reverse mortgage loan proceeds.
This house had been paid for.
Right, for many years. I planned to live here and to die here in this house. You know, all my mother wanted was a place for her children, to live.
The home went into foreclosure and has been sold. Heron, who has severe asthma and uses a nebulizer to breathe, is now facing eviction.
I was defenseless. When I found out I needed a lawyer, it was too late in the stages.
There needs to be a coalition between federal, state, and local courts to know exactly what's going on with each home foreclosure.
Well, Attorney General Lisa Madigan in Illinois here says that she permanently banned Diamond from operating his business in the state. Her office is also looking into what can be done to stop Heron's eviction. Reverse Mortgage Solutions, which is now the holder of the mortgage, told us they take these issues very seriously and will work directly with Heron to address her concerns. We've been unable to reach Mark Diamond for comment. Live in the newsroom, Suzanne Lemonnier, CBS 2 News. Erica, Rob.
So does she believe there's a solution here with the company?
She's really hoping that they can all work together to have a solution for her. She really does.
Let's hope she...
So yeah, this clip right here is over a decade ago. Yeah, that's an old clip. So this was when it started circulating around the city. And this man was around here just robbing people of their property. And you know, that was some of the early reporting on the case. And at that moment, I believe he was only charged with like wire fraud. They hadn't got him for the mortgage scam yet. This was like a wire fraud case. So at that point, a lot of people, a lot of questions was being asked. And many people were trying to understand how a situation like this could even happen. And that leads to a bigger question. I'm sorry, y'all. Let me switch my background. Which ain't nothing wrong with it, but let me switch that up. So yeah, that take us to a bigger question. How was this even allowed? Because you know, cases like this, they just don't appear out of nowhere. This stuff just don't start happening overnight. To really understand why this situation hit so close to home for so many Black people across Chicago, we have to step back and look at the history behind housing in Chicago. So back in the 1930s, neighborhoods across Chicago were graded by banks and housing agencies based on something called risk. Areas where Black families live were often outlined in red, which is where the term redlining come from. So yeah, they're redlining the area, and they'll tell you now when you Google it, that's how you redlining came about. Yeah, the area where Black people, where they was actually redlining, and they was saying that's where we gonna put the niggas. Well, let's move forward. So yeah, if your neighborhood was redlined, getting fair loans became harder, investing in the community slowed down, property values were affected for decades. Families still built strong communities and owned homes, but the system made it harder to create generational wealth. Families still build strong communities though. Right now I'm going to play a clip of some people explaining the redlining situation. So, you know, shout out to Dilla. Dilla come with the facts. But let me run this clip for y'all.
This broader narrative, all these bad things on the South Side, but the South Side is not a monolith. So you have all these different pockets. Some pockets may not have a lot of resources. Some pockets are extremely resourced. When you talk about a city like Chicago, one of the most important things is to understand segregation. The Great Migration actually has two sections, right? White citizens of Chicago were fearful this Black scourge of people were coming to take over neighborhoods or what have you. And they expressed this concern to the mayors and to realtors. So realtors actually devised a system that disallowed Black people to purchase homes. And they would draw a red line to show where Black people could not buy property, right? So this is known as redlining. About the late 50s, you still had large industry here in Chicago, and Black families could actually work in those spaces. The late 70s, 75% of those jobs were gone. Also, what happens is the city begins to remove resources, and what has been put in its place is a strong police presence.
And we are right now in Inglewood, which is a neighborhood located on the south side of Chicago. You may notice if you travel Chicago that this neighborhood doesn't look as well-to-do as, say, some of its north side neighbors. Between the 1950s and 1960s, 75 to 95% of all homes sold to Black people were sold on land sale contracts disguised as a mortgage. 2 decades running, 75 to 95% of all black people who bought homes in Chicago, they were buying homes where they got no equity until you pay the home off in 25 years. But worse than that, it was really a rent to own. And so let's say a black person fell one payment behind, they would evict them and then let it sit so they can cash out on insurance. There are 600 pieces of property still standing in Inglewood right now that we know are the byproduct of the land sale contracts. If you look at the signs, we know the names of the people. We know the people that they tricked. And this is a very prevalent thing on both the south side and the west side of Chicago. And so a lot of times when folks are displaced, no one takes the time to find out where they're going to end up. So we have no idea.
And that's how we know it's some black families right here in the city of Chicago. We're owed some reparations, just like them people in Evanston just collected or still collecting right now.
The crime kind of stays in its own proximity, right? Like those who engage in crime have crime happen to them. People make the South Side feel like even if you're just minding your business, something's going to happen to you. That's absolutely untrue. So I think that would be the first kind of misnomer I would want to correct about the South Side. Inglewood particularly, something that's needed that would help change it. Attention paid to the local schools, all our extracurricular, our special program, our trade programs. We Chicagoans and Chicago as a city perpetuates the notion that the South Side is inherently dangerous. And so when everybody from top down tells you that a place is dangerous, then you're slow to invest in that, right?
Yeah, we want to welcome you to Chicago, to Inglewood, right here where you.
So yeah, after redlining, many families had to rely on alternative ways to buy or keep their property. Some were pushed into contract buying, like Dilla just explained. Others were targeted by predatory housing deals that looked official on paper but worked against us in reality. And over time, those tactics didn't disappear. Under the system of white supremacy, they evolved. I got one more from my boy Dilla.
Got a little hot in Roseland when the Black World War II veterans came home needing a place to stay. The demographic shift in Roseland was not pretty. Sucks to see that Roseland went from an area that was helping African Americans escape slavery to one that was preventing them from owning homes. The closing of the Pullman train car company as well as other steel mills and racial tension really hurt Roseland. Roseland sadly got caught up in redlining, and despite this investment, it's a pretty proud neighborhood. Roseland is still super dope, and shout out to Wild Hundreds.
Yeah, man. So when you see the history laid out like that, you start to understand how patterns can continue across generations and how we got Mark Diamond and the many others that's out here scamming right now today. Yeah, so we gonna circle back around. When the allegations about Mark Diamond start spreading, many people start connecting it to a longer history, especially stories involving elderly foundational Black Americans, homeowners. Yeah, so reports describe him moving through parts of Chicago, South and West Side, interacting with elders, foundational Black American elders, and homeowners in ways that later became part of major news coverage. So he was originally charged with wire fraud. Then the reports kept coming in about these fraudulent mortgages, and more reports started rolling through. So now I'm gonna play another set of clips for y'all. This is from years after that original clip. That original clip may have been from 2012 or 2014. So this was some years later. People were still trying to fight, and he was still up to no good. The people that came forward already was trying to fight. Many other victims was speaking on this. So this what happened.
Newsroom, Mark Diamond, who is accused of defrauding more than 100 senior citizens by encouraging them to sign reverse mortgages and then pocketing millions of dollars in home equity, is back in jail tonight. A federal judge is deciding whether or not he should be released on bond. He's been in custody more than a year. Now, the sons and daughters of elderly Chicago residents defrauded say he should remain in jail, that he should not be given bond. They say that he is a threat to other senior citizens. His attorney, though, argues that he would be confined to his mother's home under electronic monitoring with no access to a computer. Judge Robert Dow is expected to rule sometime in the...
Yeah, so he kept it up. The man was already charged with wire fraud. He was so thirsty, he kept scamming. He kept going.
New at 10, more trouble for a man facing charges in a reverse mortgage scam. He's suspected of stealing millions of dollars from hundreds of vulnerable people in Chicago. Our Charlie DeMar has more on a new lawsuit looking to reverse the damage he's done.
Barbara Heron's mother had dementia and was approached about making repairs to the home she owned.
She owed $180,000.
Not only did the work never get done, she claims Mark Diamond and a team of schemers swindled her into signing a reverse mortgage.
He was supposed to redo the whole hallway.
Reverend Robin Hood's late aunt signed a reverse mortgage for $110,000 despite owning the home for years, causing more damage to the home.
This was a good Christmas for our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren to hear that this lawsuit took place.
A new civil lawsuit filed by Northwestern's Bloom Legal Clinic represents more than 45 victims.
Mark Diamond and his co-schemers targeted elderly Black homeowners on primarily the west side of Chicago.
Juliet Sorensen and her team are trying to void the reverse mortgages because they were procured through fraud. The complaint also names the lenders.
In every sense of the word, these were vulnerable victims who were all too easily exploited.
The new civil complaint is on top of federal charges Diamond already faces for defrauding 120 homeowners in this reverse mortgage scheme, accused of pocketing millions. CBS 2 has covered Diamond for years.
It was like laced with fraud from the beginning to end.
Charlie DeMar, CBS 2 News.
So I feel like some of those companies that was doing business with him should be questioned, investigated, because they own some of those properties that was taken from these families, and they got them now. And some of these families wasn't able to fight these people, so they done lost they property to these companies, and nobody's investigating these people. Those companies need to be investigated. So yeah, he kept defrauding the elders millions of dollars. And this story, I'm not gonna say it was swept under the rug, because it was some networks that kept on over the years bringing it back up, but I feel like it should have been louder. There should have been more noise made. So yeah, and then it's a lot of people that say, hey, yeah, we understand redlining and we understand, back in the day, but how did we get here today? Well, let me play this clip for y'all.
In 2007, when defaults started creeping up into lower credit score, poorer neighborhoods, we're talking default rates, for example, of 25%, in contrast to, say, 5 or 6% in some of the higher credit score neighborhoods. And we just wanted to do research to try to figure out what exactly happened in these neighborhoods that was leading to higher mortgage default rates. And so then we started looking at income patterns and seeing some strange things. So for example, if you look at income being reported to the IRS in Englewood and Garfield Park, it's growing every year by about 1.9% in nominal terms. Given that inflation is about 2.5%, that implies an actual decline in real income in these neighborhoods. However, if you look at the income being reported on mortgage applications, it's on the order of 8% per year, which is obviously very high, much higher than inflation, and also much higher than any other neighborhood in the city of Chicago. And so right away, those two things don't kind of match. One thing that was very tricky to tease out is that house prices were starting to rise in these areas. You got one of these perverse relationships where house prices were just being driven by the credit itself. And there's no doubt in my mind that fraud on mortgage applications was an important part of driving that boom in mortgage credit. One of the depressing things is that these neighborhoods were devastated by the Great Recession, by the foreclosure crisis. This mortgage credit boom artificially may have boosted some economic activity in these neighborhoods, but ultimately led the people who live in these neighborhoods worse off.
My name is Lovey Griffin, and I've lived in Garfield Park since, 1988. Well, on this block, I can say maybe that I know like about 7, 8 people who have lost their home. During the Great Recession, a lot of people lost their homes because they lost their job. And after losing the jobs, they could not afford the home.
And then you have a Mark Diamond show up.
One of the big questions I think remaining is who exactly was falsifying the income information. There's certainly a lot of anecdotal evidence that the brokers were doing it on their own volition without even the borrowers actually knowing that they were falsifying the income information. But there has so far been very little, if any, criminal investigations into fraud, and I'm highly doubtful that we'll ever see that. The US economy seems like it's struggling. The only way we seem to be able to generate enough spending, enough home buying, is by extending credit, usually on onerous terms, to people that at the end of the day may not be able to afford houses or the cars that they're buying. At the end of the day, the money's going to come due, and when it comes due and people can't pay, what is the effect going to be on the financial system? What is going to be the effect on the people themselves? That's a pretty worrisome sign going forward.
Yeah, man, so that's how this pattern continues up until today. Yeah, so what you hear in those reports isn't just about one person. It's about families. Some families were able to fight back, some weren't. And for many people, these situations mean losing homes that been in families for generations. Yeah, man. So yeah, this need to be talked about more, and it need to be spread across. It need to be spread across the United States, because it's not just going on in Chicago. Behind every headline were real people trying to understand paperwork, court cases, and housing systems that weren't designed for them to be easily navigated. Yeah, so like I say, man, some families fought. A lot of families didn't even have the resources to start a fight. Some found out too late. It's just at a point where they had to evacuate the premises. Man, it was a messed up situation. It's still messed up. I know it's a lot of people out here that didn't even speak up. They got some letters and they just bounced. They ain't even care. They ain't live at Granny crib. Granny passed on. They just bounced. Them people got their crib now. Granny been staying there since 70 something. And when you look at the history from redlining to this modern day, the predatory housing practices and patterns they use, you start to see how everything connects. So yeah, after years of investigations, court hearings, and families sharing their stories, the case eventually reached its final chapter. Right now, I'm gonna play a couple clips for y'all, and y'all check it out. This was the results Mark Diamond. This is what happened with him.
Scam artist who pleaded guilty to swindling elderly homeowners out of hundreds of thousands of dollars learned his sentence today in federal court.
Now, this is a case WGN's been following for a decade, and WGN's Mike Lowe was in the courtroom at the Dirksen Federal Building when the punishment was handed down. Mike?
Ray and Micah, good evening to both of you. The judge raised his voice as he admonished Mark Diamond for, quote, preying on some of the city's most vulnerable people. He then told Diamond that Diamond had destroyed people's dreams before handing down a 17-year sentence.
Finally, this is the closure, and finally he's going to jail.
Barbara Quintero Bailey's mother lost her home in foreclosure after Mark Diamond tricked her into signing a reverse mortgage. Holding a framed photo of her late mother, she said that Diamond's scheme, which targeted dozens and dozens of elderly black people on Chicago's West Side, left her family emotionally and financially distressed.
There is no sentence that could have been given to Mark Diamond that's going to ever suffice the hurt, the pain, the emotions that he put us through.
68-year-old Mark Diamond listened to victim after victim make impact statements at his sentencing hearing today in federal court. He pleaded guilty last year, the signed agreement stating he is in fact guilty of a scheme to defraud and to obtain money. The contractor was a con artist, preying on the vulnerable and devising a scheme that coaxed the elderly into agreeing to reverse mortgages, a kind of home loan that turns home equity into cash and doesn't need to be paid back until the home is sold. Diamond tricked the homeowners into giving him the money, promising he'd use it to make repairs. But most of the promised work was never done, and many of the victims lost everything.
Mark Diamond took Predator to another level for me.
West Side community activist Reverend Robin Hood's own aunt was one of the victims. He's been fighting for justice for 10 years. WGN uncovered the scheme back in 2015.
The FBI is conducting a criminal investigation. In fact, it started right after our story first aired.
WGN's extensive reporting was used as evidence in court today.
This is going to be one of those cases that's going to go in the history books.
Mark Diamond accused of manipulating elderly African-American homeowners on the West Side.
At long last for those victims and their families, Diamond is being punished. In the plea agreement, he acknowledged tricking 18 Chicago area homeowners and taking $929,000 from them. But the prosecutors suspect there were at least 80 victims who suffered as much as $6 million in losses. Today, Diamond addressed his victims in open court, saying, quote, if I could turn back the hands of time and change it, I would, but I can't. All I can say is I'm sorry.
I don't believe nothing what he said. I don't believe he has any remorse.
U.S. District Judge Franklin Valderrama sentenced him to 17 years in federal prison, saying, quote, buying a home is part of the American dream. You, Mr. Diamond, turned that dream into a nightmare. And prosecutors say 4 other people were involved in this fraud. They have all pleaded guilty and are awaiting sentencing.
So, yeah. After everything that came out, the investigation, the testimony, the impact on families, Mark Diamond was sentenced to 17 years in federal prison. I don't feel that was enough time. Like that brother, Reverend Robin Hood said, some of those elderly people, man, died from stress, man. They died behind this. The stress that came from behind this, some of those people died, man. Heart attacks and stuff, man, that wasn't enough time. But he wasn't the only person. Did y'all catch that? One of his co-conspirators, Cynthia Wallace, was also sentenced. She was sentenced a couple months ago for her role. So according to prosecutors, she was sent out to recruit elderly FBA victims on the specifically, mostly on the west side of Chicago. So I'm gonna play this clip real quick for y'all. Let me pull it up.
Wallace leaves court after her sentencing.
Check that out.
Cynthia Wallace leaves court after her sentencing hearing. Wallace quickly put her hood over her head as she walked out of the Dirksen federal courthouse. Prosecutors say Wallace was a co-conspirator who worked closely with Mark Diamond, a man convicted of defrauding 122 victims out of about $10 million in home equity. From 2006, Wallace took part in the scam, finding seniors, mostly on the West Side, to sign up for what they thought were home repairs under a government program. What they were really signing were reverse mortgages that left many of them without repairs and facing foreclosure, often on homes that were completely paid for. Among the victims, the late Barbara Heron, who I spoke with in 2017.
I plan to live here and to die here in this house.
That lady
In
done
court,
passed
it was
away.
revealed Wallace was
Man, rest
paid
in
to
peace.
find each victim. One of the victims was the late Lily Williams, the aunt of the Reverend Robin Hood.
On her deathbed, I made a promise to her. I made a promise that no matter how long this took, that I would be in court when Mark Diamond and Cynthia Wallace goes to jail and gets sentenced.
We've been following Hood's aunt's story since 2017 when Diamond was in court on wire
Y'all
fraud
see
charges.
how they
Today,
done aged,
8
though?
years
This how
later,
long this
as
case
Diamond's
been going on.
co-conspirator, Wallace, faced a judge. Hood told us.
My community never thought that they would see justice in this form happen. I remember starting off with this work.
In court, this audio recording was played where Wallace posed as a HUD employee, telling a homeowner her fake boss told her the woman would lose her home unless she paid Wallace an extra $500.
If it's not here tonight by 9 o'clock tonight, she says she has no choice
Look at this
to seek
nigga.
foreclosure.
Wallace was able to make more than $62,000 from that part of the scheme. Before
They
her
done made
sentencing,
millions.
she told the judge,
They done
I
gave
am
your
wrong,
dumb ass
and I did all
crumbs.
those things. I want to apologize to all my victims. The judge said Wallace put fear in victims, adding, you saw an opportunity to make money and you took it, and said her sentence needed to reflect the seriousness of the offense. In addition to her 42-month sentence and 2 years of supervised release, Wallace has to pay more than $300,000 in restitution to the heirs of all of her victims.
So yeah, man. Y'all seen her. I tried to look on the internet. I couldn't find a picture. I was looking for this lady. I want to see a picture of this lady because I just don't believe that. No, man. She can't be part of ours. She can't be from our culture. I don't believe that. And this why I'm going to keep it real with y'all. A lot of people was shocked seeing someone from, well, that look like us involved in this. And like I said, I really don't believe this lady. I want to know where she's from. Like, it's a reminder, always ask questions. Who is this woman? Like, for real. They didn't how did she end up with these white people scamming? For real, it's a lot of questions come with this. How did she end up linked in with Mark Diamond now? Like, this lady here. That's not a thing in our community, man. The target our elders. That's what really make me think this lady is not from our culture. She got to be from somewhere else. Reports describe how she was sent out to find elderly homeowners. And even though she received about 4 years, no, I don't think that's enough time for her either. Y'all preyed on Black Americans. Like, man, when you step back and look at everything from redlining to the predatory housing, modern fraud cases, you start to see that this story never just about one person. It's about foundational Black American history, the system, and the hurdles set in place we have to overcome and fight. And making sure people recognize the red flags before situations like this happen again. We have to do better, for real. We got to do a better job checking in on our elderly. Man, I get it. Our elders are stubborn, stuck in their ways. A lot of them live in their cribs. They take care of their business, pay their little bills, and they locked in like that. But we have to step in once, they hit them mid-70s. They start getting older, asking questions. Did anybody stop by the house, offer you any money, offering to repair the house, offering to do different things? Like, for real, like, we got to make sure our elders are good out here, because they're preying on them. They trying to get this property, man. Y'all just seen it, man. That he went down for like 18. They charged him. He actually was found guilty for 18 cases. But it was way more than that. Millions of dollars. Man, people lived in them homes for decades, and then just to find somebody pass away and to get a letter saying, hey, you got to pay this balance, or y'all might as well roll out. Rest in peace to that lady we seen, man. We just seen over a decade worth of footage. People have died and gone. Their property is gone. That's why some of those companies need to be investigated that was doing business, that was buying those properties from Mark Diamond and his shell companies. Yeah, man, foundational Black Americans, man, y'all check on y'all elders around the country. Because like I say, if it's going on here in Chicago, it's going on everywhere. This was an attack specifically on foundational Black American elderly homeowners. We were targeted. This is why it's important that we're delineating, naming ourselves specifically, so we can get laws in place. We can get our name, we can get foundational Black American stamped in some laws. Now we need to be named in some bills and some laws that protect us against certain things like this, man. Because we out here being targeted, man, in different types of ways, man. And like I say, to the foundational Black American community out there, man, y'all, we got to get up out of that being ashamed, because there's a lot of people probably found out they family, their grandparents or granny or whoever, grandpa, signed some papers and was defrauded and was ashamed to speak up about it. I get it, it's an embarrassing thing. It's an embarrassing feeling, because it's not just an embarrassing thing. The elder was taken advantage of. We got to do a better job of speaking up on these things. Man, we got to speak up, step up, because these type of things will not be allowed to go as long as it did. The man was charged with wire fraud, and then he continued to get down on people. They had to get up with him again later. So yeah, man, check in with your elders. Make sure they good. Ask questions. I know they stubborn, but we got to make sure they good out here, because these people out here preying on them. Man, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. And like I say, check in with the elder. Make sure your old folks good around there, man, because they trying to get this property. If you got some good property somewhere in your city, they want it. And it's been one, y'all. Done 773. Appreciate y'all. Judge.